Guten Morgen, mein Name ist Peter Sidrow. Ich begrüße Sie zum zweiten Teil dieser Webinarreihe Bildungsclouds weltweit, das dynamische Curriculum, und heute widmen wir uns dem Fallbeispiel Oslo. Und das Ganze wird wieder auf Englisch stattfinden, deshalb werde ich jetzt auch gleich auf Englisch die Moderation vollführen, und wir werden eine halbe Stunde einen Vortrag sehen. Zwischendurch wird es auch die Möglichkeit, im Text zu chatten. Da gibt es auch ein paar Hinweise, manchmal Übersetzungen auf Deutsch, sodass Sie das auch verfolgen können. Und ja, danach haben wir auch die Gelegenheit zu diskutieren. Dort können Sie dann auch Fragen auf Deutsch oder Englisch stellen. So yes, welcome to this second part of our webinar series, Bildungscloud weltweit, which is meaning educational cloud systems around the world. And today we are very delighted that we can welcome Bjarte Rørmark and also Jørgen Natvig from the Kommune of Oslo, and to present their concept how most or all schools in Oslo can work with itslearning today for their curriculum efforts, and what that is also why that is connected to quality assurance in the schools. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can say some short words about yourself, and then we can have your presentation. Just to tell you what we are doing here today is that we will have a half-hour presentation, and then you will have the chance to also ask your questions. You can do that in the text chat. There's a little text chat window. During all the time you can just ask questions. In the background is also my colleague Jens Neumann, who will forward some questions probably already during the presentation and keep the most valuable ones also for our discussion later on. And then you will later also have the chance to raise your hand. There's a little hand symbol in this meeting software, and then you may also ask your questions on audio. So I give the words and the presentation screen over to you now, and I'm very looking forward to see what you can present.
Thank you very much. Are we online now? Everything's okay? Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure and privilege for us to meet you all. I must say also for myself, it's a new experience to give a speech in a webinar. As you also can hear, English is not my mother tongue, so I will do my very best to present this to you in a proper way. My name is, as the moderator said, Bjarte Rørmark. I'm an assistant director in the Department of School Development School Quality in the Kommune of Oslo. And with me I have my co-worker Jørgen Natvig, who's working especially with developing Oslo, the School of Oslo in educational technology. Should we put on our presentation now?
Yeah. And then turn off our camera.
Let me turn off our camera so you will see the presentation only. First, we must say that Oslo, in the world, is a very small town. We have about 600,000 inhabitants, but still we're the biggest town in Oslo. So we feel very large where we are. And so we have to, in the national community, we build our own systems in many ways, because there are not many cities that we actually can relate to and learn from. What has been the challenge in Oslo for as many years as I can remember, and it's probably the same challenge as in all over the world, is that although we have a very large number of highly qualified and fantastic teachers and school leaders, there is still a difference between the classrooms. We have reports saying that the difference in quality in teaching and learning in Oslo is bigger within the same school than between the different schools. So, and this tells us that we have to do We have to help the different teachers to become as good as they can, and we have to develop systems to do this. Some of you remember these kind of physical education lessons where we had to stand in a row and do the same rehearsals all over. And this is not exactly how we want it to be, because it's important as a school manager to build on the competences of every teacher. Every teacher is a unique person and teaches in a way that he or her finds the best, and they have always the the child's best in mind. But that doesn't always mean that they don't need help. So the balance between letting the teachers use their individual qualities and to make systems that ensure that every child is as lucky with their own teacher as possible. Just a small picture here of Oslo. You know where it is geographically, and just to make a note of that, we're growing. Like I think many big cities in Europe, where Oslo is also growing, and we're growing faster than the nation as a whole. You know, I'll go back to this just to say that to give you a picture, we have about 180 schools in Oslo and 90,000 pupils and about 15,000 teachers. That's our size. So in a German context, we're a medium-sized city, I guess. In Norway, we're the biggest by far. This is a picture of the Norwegian school system, just to give you an idea. The kindergarten, which is at the bottom, is not actually a part of the school system, but it's here just to show you. The kindergarten in Norway is not compulsory, and the services are given by both private and public services. About 50-50, I guess. When we talk about primary and lower secondary, primary and secondary education, the situation is different. It's obligatory from year 1, 6 years, until 13 or 12 years of schooling. And this is the services is almost completely a public service. Private schooling in Oslo, in Norway, generally is very, very low percentage of the pupils. Oslo has, as the only commune in Norway, also responsible for the blue part on top, the upper secondary education and vocational training. But in the rest of the presentation now, I will mainly concentrate on the primary and lower secondary education. 11 years ago, we had a new curriculum, national curriculum in Norway, and I need to make some short remark about this system to make you understand the Norwegian system better. This is a national comprehensive curriculum which covers primary, lower secondary, upper secondary education and training. I will come back to the basic skills, but the important part in this today is that the aims, the goals in the national curriculum are very lofty, very general, and not very concrete in helping the schools and the teachers to make their local curriculum. I will demonstrate this in a few slides, yes. But first, I want to make a few remarks about the basic skills, as we call them. When they made the national curriculum in 2006, they decided to integrate 5 basic skills in the curriculum, and to expect that these 5 skills should be adapted to every subject in the curriculum. And that means that these 5 skills, the ability to express oneself orally, ability to read, to do simple arithmetics or numeracy as it's called here on this slide, the ability to write, and the ability to use digital tools. All these skills should be integrated in every subject in some way. This has been a hard task for the schools in Norway, but now after about 10 years we think we've come a long way in using these skills as tools for learning, but also using the subjects, the different subjects, Norwegian, history, mathematics, as tools to learn the skills. If we have time later on, and perhaps in discussion, we can talk more about the number 5 here, that the digital tools or the media skills. That was actually quite groundbreaking at the time. But back to the competence aims. The goals in the curriculum, national curriculums, are called competence aims because they are formulated in a way that the aim should be to develop a broader competence in the different subjects. Another challenging part of the structure of the Norwegian national curriculum is that these competence aims are placed on with a distance between them. As you can see here, there are competence aims on the 2nd year, 4th year, 7th year, and 10th year. We stopped there before because the structure of the higher secondary is a bit different. So this actually assumes, and it makes demands on the schools and the commune to plan their own curriculum within these gaps. So for quite a few years, every school and sometimes the individual teacher worked very hard to translate, sometimes we use the term unpack the competence aims into smaller parts that is actually meaningful to use in planning of the lessons and the school year. So to do this, and to do it properly, they had to make a local curricula, or we had to do this, to ensure the students' progression, to be quite sure that we developed the students' competence within each subject towards these big competence aims for every 2nd or 3rd year. They had to do this to make the choice of content and teaching methods in a planned way, but also, last but not least, to be able to assess the students in a proper way according to the curriculum. I think on this point perhaps it's useful for you to know that the assessment for the first 7 years is not being done in Norway with grades. So it's just oral or written assessment in the first 7 years. On year 8, from year 8 and upwards, it's assessment with grades as well, in addition to oral or written assessment. So the schools in Norway are expected to develop their own local curriculum. This assumes competences in schools as well. The school leaders need to be competent in this work, and the teachers as well. It's a part of a professional training they get, but also it's as I hope I've been able to explain to you, it's a demanding task. For this, the school, it very quickly turned out that the school needed support, and the closest institution to give them the support is actually the kommune and the school administration in the kommune. In this case, it's a big benefit that Oslo is a big kommune. We have been able to gather resources and competence centrally, which has worked quite a lot to guide the schools and give them support and develop models for this. And one of the main supports we've given them is that we've developed learning goals guidance. That is actually a suggested local curriculum. But because of the legislation and the national curriculum, we're not allowed to make this obligatory for the schools. It's supposed to be like advice to them. So if they want to use this guidance or this example on the local curriculum, they can use it, but they also must find out whether they want to adapt it to the special competences or how the school is organized and what kind of pupils they've got and all these special things for every school. So this is our new splendid technology, which we have tried to make to make some models and some systems that can help us in this work. As you know, we use itslearning as a learning management system. Learning management systems are have different functions, and some of them are quite large and give a great deal of opportunities for administrating and working in the school community. We decided rather quickly when we wanted to use a learning management system that we have to restrict the possibilities in a way. It's always when you work with something new, it's a good idea to go step by step and to open up all possibilities at once, especially when we come to technology, often leads to chaos, and instead of equal quality in education and learning, we can have big differences. And big differences are good when they're all good, but differences that brings low quality to some schools, it's not a good thing, and it's our responsibility to work against that. So what we decided to do is to use the functionality in this learning mainly, not exclusively, but mainly to plan the teaching, to perform teaching, and in assessment afterwards. So to do this in a good way, we have to build the system on the local curriculum and the educational objectives, and to provide the schools with these examples of goals that I talked about a slide ago. So our strategy has actually been to achieve equal quality through facilitating the technology and presuppose equal use. And I have to make a few remarks about this, because when read like this, it might be misunderstood that we want to keep all our schools on the same level. That sounds like political systems we don't really like to be associated with, because I think we think that a multitude of different ideas and different ways to do things is good. And we will not stop the excellent schools from becoming more excellent. So this is not the meaning of this. But if we want to bring the let us call them the struggling schools up to a level that we want them to be and need them to be, we have to integrate this in our system. And we have to presuppose that all schools do a minimum of planning the way we think and have actually also research to back us up is a good idea. Let me just see. Well, no, I'll stay a bit on this slide for a few more minutes. To achieve equal good quality in the classroom, it's another point that I want to make, and that is teacher collaboration. If we have a strong history in schools, and I think that might not only be the Norwegian schools, that each teacher is very individual. It's an individual worker. They have a strong sense of what is right, and they have a history of being left alone in the classroom. Modern research has for years shown that this is not a good quality strategy. To make all teachers better, they should collaborate. We want our teachers to work in teams and to have a good situation of team working. They need to know what the other teachers are planning, and ideally they should also plan their lessons together. So this system, and when we use an LMS for this, it's a tool that makes it easier for the teacher to collaborate in planning and also assessing. And it gives the school leaders a tool to help and support the teachers in this work. So to sum up a bit, we use itslearning as a framework to plan based on a local curriculum, where we use templates to assure a minimum of equal practice. We make models that focus on workflows and pedagogical processes, and these workflows and processes are based on best practices, what we experience, what we know the school needs, and also of course on science and research. We provide the schools with guidance and a lot of documentation on how to do this technically, and we want this to be a minimum standard for all. But of course, we leave room for expanded use for the schools and teachers who are able and want to do this. Just a few slides at the end here, which shows the layout. I don't know. We can come back to that if someone asks specifically. Let me see whether there are. Yes. Should we add something to this, Jørgen?
That's okay.
It's okay. So I think actually I'll just show it. Yeah. Well, overall planning, teaching plan for the periods, and overall assessment at the end of each term, and that's it actually. So I will leave you now with my lone speech, and I think I will end with to say that it's important to remember for you that this is only a part of our quality program in Oslo. We do a lot of different things, and we find it very important always to be on the lookout for new quality strategies. So what would be very interesting for us to hear is that our colleagues from our colleagues in Germany is how you think about strategies for quality development, what efforts you do to strengthen the quality of teaching and learning, but at the same time empowering the teacher as a professional, because we found this to be a very important topic right now in Norway. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you also from our side. And I will just shortly translate your question, that we can make sure that everybody really gets it. Die Referenten stellen die Frage auch an Sie. Wie stellen Sie eigentlich sicher, dass ein gewisser Qualitätsstandard auf der einen Seite sichergestellt werden kann, aber gleichzeitig auch möglichst viel Freiraum für die Schulen zur Entwicklung da ist und das Ganze natürlich auch in Verbindung mit digitalen Werkzeugen, wie Sie es jetzt hier gesehen haben. So this is our approach to also get into a discussion. So you can now just start raising your hand. There's a little hand symbol which you can click on, and then I will you will have the chance to ask your question with your microphone. Sie können auf das Handsymbol klicken, dann können Sie gerne eine Frage auch per Audio stellen oder Sie können eben Ihre Sichtweise hierzu erläutern. Und alternativ können Sie auch eine Textnachricht in dem Textfenster schicken, um Ihre Frage zu stellen. Dann bleiben Sie auch anonym. Wenn ich Sie jetzt hier per Audio reinhole, dann hören wir natürlich auch Ihren Namen. Sie entscheiden. Ich würde mich über viele Fragen freuen. Jetzt sind Sie am Zug. Wir haben hier die einmalige Gelegenheit, uns mit den Kollegen aus Oslo mal auszutauschen. Welche Fragen haben Sie? Which questions do you have? Which answers to the question of our speakers do you have? So, eine Frage von vorher. I can come up with a question that was asked before. To the speakers, how can you work on the teacher training? Because you were mentioning in your presentation that there's a lot of effort, of course, to put in about the teacher competences to adopt the curriculum and also to use a digital tool for setting up new curricula or editing it and changing it to the local needs. So how do you make a teacher training that is actually effectful?
On one hand, it's the actual technical competences is fairly easy to address. I'm sure you agree with me that courses to workshops and how to use the different systems and models is fairly straightforward. We have this kind of workshops fairly often, that where we work on both planning and assessing using, for instance, this learning as a tool. What is really harder is to educate the teachers in a way that they actually change the way they work, because that is often very strongly connected to their own self. So what we find is the most effective teacher training method is actually to have counselors and experts working together with the teachers at the schools. So on different subjects we have small teams that actually work with the teachers and with the school leaders at the different schools. And obviously this is a quite expensive and time-consuming way of working, because we need to be present at all our 180 schools, and that it will take some time before we actually manage this. But our principle is then to address the schools that need the assistance most. So this we call school-based competence or training, and I think some international reports call it in-work training, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we found this one of the effective models of teacher training.
Okay. So there's one question from the audience, Miss Brindle. Hallo, Frau Brindle. Hello, wir können Sie jetzt hören. We can hear you. We can't? No? Okay, the question is, she also has written it down. How many hours of teaching do teachers have to teach in a week, and where do you take the time for collaboration from?
The teachers in Norway have a working week. It differs a little bit, but it's around 44 hours a week. Of these 44 hours, they teach. That differs also, but I think average around 22 hours, I think. So in theory, the rest, about half the week, is for other purposes in the job. Some of these, the rest of the working hours, about I think about well, I'm sorry, I'm not absolutely sure, about 10 or 15 hours. They have to. This is within their school leaders' responsibility. So for these 10 or 15 hours a week, they have to be at school, and the rest they can actually work with their own development and planning of the individual planning. They can do it wherever they want. If they want to do it at home, they can do that. But these about 10 hours is for collaboration and work at school. And it differs quite a lot, actually, also in Oslo, how the school leaders organize this. They have quite a big freedom to do this as they find suitable. And it's also possible for schools to, through negotiations with the teachers, to even use more time for common work at the school. Was that understandable?
Yes, I think yes. And there's another question basing on this, which is, do you also make it compulsory for teachers to use the technology? And how do you deal with that if not every teacher wants to use technology or adopt the tools you provide them?
Yes, the minimum standards, as I mentioned on the last slide, is compulsory, and but it's also it's also kind of, it's a flexible standard in many ways. You can meet this standard with very few activities in the system. But it's the school leader's responsibility to ensure that this planning takes place in the tool, in its learning as a tool. So, but we've seen that it's especially hard to motivate the teachers of the youngest students to do this, because one of the advantages with an LMS is also the communication of the planning to students, and this I think they find harder with the very young children. So that's the motivation to do this is not so high on in the low age groups. But if the question implies that we have some sort of punishment for the teachers who don't use it, no, we try to motivate instead of punish. It's yes.
Yeah, this is something that we see. That's a comment from me, that we see very often in Germany. That one of the biggest questions for school leaders is then how you can really bring all your teachers aboard, and how strong you are as a school leader to do this. And because you need to cope, you have to cope with a variety of digital competencies amongst your teachers, and openness and willingness. So what advice can you give to school leaders then? Because you were saying the school leader has to make sure that these tools are going to be used. What can you give as an advice to them?
Well, firstly, I think I should be so brave to say that I don't think the actual digital competence with teachers is a big problem anymore. I think when they actually first are being sat down around the table and shown the techniques by an expert, they very quickly find out how they do this. And what we actually also see is that very often they quickly understand the advantages of using this technology. Because as I have said many times, teachers are often very individual workers, and they're very strong in their subject. And if they don't quite quickly see the advantages where this can lead to better and more learning and easier planning for them, they will not use it. But with the proper guidance, so my first advice to a school leader would be, if you don't have this competence, if you don't have this expert at your school for using the system, which should be a teacher, because they need to know how teachers should use them, not the technician. If you don't have this competence, you should find it somewhere, and you should make them sit down together with teachers and show them the advantages of using the system.
Okay. And there's another question a bit more detailed on the digital or media competencies. How exactly do you teach them for teachers, and also how do you teach them for students? Because you were showing the itslearning planner, but it's not just that. It's quite a big of a variety what we understand by digital competencies. So how is this connected with your efforts that are connected with itslearning and in general and overall?
The technological revolution has come to Oslo as well, to say it that way. You might have read in international news that we've had for many years in Norway a good economy. So the schools have been able to invest in digital devices for the children, and actually the last year or two we have had what I would say an explosion in the use of devices for every child. More schools now buy devices for every child, so they can use blended learning all the time in the teaching. But this is of course not it's still only a few schools who do this, and a few teachers who are really good at this. So and we feel quite strongly now that this is getting so popular and modern that we have to be very strong in our support to make this worthwhile. It's no reason to use computers or iPads if it doesn't lead to even better teaching and better learning for the kids. So we've quite recently actually started working with this, according to a strategy of helping the schools to understand this. And it will take too much time to go into depth of this strategy, but to be very concrete now, so we have hired a team of specialist teachers who've been working with modern technology in the classroom to be a school support team in the way I talked about teacher training, the model of school-based quality development. We also need to strengthen this competence with different commercial actors. So we are making deals right now with some commercial actors on the field, so we can really have a large quantity of support to the teachers. So, but what would be interesting to use a whole webinar on, I think, is the methods, because to be quite honest, I've been on a few courses myself during my career, and it's very seldom that I go home and teach or work in a completely different way after being to a 2-day course of using technology in school. So we have to make these workshops and this guidance work to be very concrete and easy for the teachers to understand, and they have to have models from the beginning, so they can bring home actually something that's really easy to use, and then they have to accept that they have to practice, because it's not something you've been to university and graduated as a teacher, and you're an expert in your field, and you've been using very much of your life to use the books and the paper and the blackboard as tools. But if you know how to use all these other tools, you have to practice to do it. It's not something you manage to do overnight. So these workshops and teacher training courses and work at the schools will have must be very multicolored. Some of the courses must be very practical, how to use a certain resource on the web to teach, and some have to be very the other direction, how to ensure good quality in planning and using your research to ensure this. So it's a multitude of different angles actually that will do the trick at last.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. There's another question. Maybe you can go back to the slide where we can see the itslearning planner, and where you have structured or prepared like a template for the schools. Because one of the important questions that we all have in Germany is, how can we get content into the platform, and who is responsible for that? Is that content from publishers' houses? Is that content that the district or the commune, the local authority provides to the school, or who is putting the content in, or is there also content developed by teachers? So probably you can tell us a bit how you solved this problem with the content that you use in the planner, how that is connected to the competencies from the national curriculum, because that is probably one of the most important aspects that helps teachers to adopt this very quick and easily, what you were just describing. So we would be very interested in learning this from you, how you did this.
Okay, that was a long question. I think it leads two parts. Mainly, the first part was about how we make different resources available to the schools, right? And the second part is how to connect the planner to the national curriculum. Is that yes? I think we start with the last one. Jørgen, you have to help me with this, but I think this here you can. It's a very simple structure. It looks like a file archive, but into these files we link the national curriculum goals. The competence goals are somewhere in here, and it's in the lower bottom where it says overall learning objectives. Yes, and then the specific learning objectives are in the other part of the file archive. So and it's linked. So when a teacher wants to use the planner to plan for long term, they use the competence aims from the national curriculum together with some other learning objectives that might be assigned to every half year, every term, if they want. And it's also then linked to the specific learning objectives that can be as small as the teacher wants them to be. It can be for a part of a lesson or for a period of teaching. Was that correct, Jørgen?
Yes.
Yes. But to the linking to the resources, do we have a slide on that? Not actually.
There's some resources.
Yes. So that's a more complicated question actually, because we don't have an Oslo system for resources yet. It's possible in iteLearning. I'm not an iteLearning expert, but it's possible to link tasks and activities and resources in the planner, and link it to the different objectives, I think both long-term and short-term objectives. Is that correct? Yes. But we don't yet in Oslo have, let's say, a resource bank where they can, where the teachers can pick. This is still up to every school to buy these resources or to find them if they're free. But it's been a political decision now that we should look into this and start working to see that we might have some to propose some and perhaps also to buy, so they can use for free some resources and different applications and programs and websites. Do you want to add anything, Jørgen?
No.
No. Well, was this an answer?
Yes, and what I also understood is that what you can see here already in the planner is that this is already content, because this is, of course, a structure you give to the schools. So we are talking about content here already. It's not just about single assets, but this is content that is provided by you to the schools. And also, as I understood you correctly, you are also doing assessments in iteLearning to help teachers or schools to check where they are. And this is, from my understanding, also relevant content that is delivered through the platform that helps teachers to also check where they are, or if they have succeeded with their teaching. So that's at least how I understood it. Maybe you can explain it a bit more detailed how
yes,
this
absolutely.
is set up.
It's two different ways, I think, of using the word content. But as the way you use the term now is absolutely correct. When we give the schools the possibility to use these proposed targets that we made for them, that is kind of content, and also our framework for assessing is content. What I was actually more thinking about was the concrete content that you use in your history lesson, for instance. What kind of apps do you use, or what kind of websites do you enrich your teaching with? But it's true. We have a framework for assessing where we use iteLearning, and so of course also linked to the goals. This assessment is for the first 7 years only written assessment, but in the later years of school, it's both written and grades. And of course, these assessments are available both for the students and the parents through the learning management system.
That is also an interesting point. We haven't talked about the parents really yet. So when you do the assessment, you give access to the results also to the parent. Is that true? And what do you receive as a positive effect on this?
Well, to be quite honest, this is very, very important for the parents. We have had some focus groups where we interview parents about their needs for communication and the use of technology in this. And there are two things they are actually most interested in, and that is to keep track of the children's homework and to see the assessment. I think we have the parents have possibility to see the assessment all the year. Is that true,
Yes.
Jørgen?
Yes.
So they see every homework that the children deliver. They get the assessment, and the parents can see it. But also, we have a system that after every term, which is in Norway, we have 2 terms. So after every term, they also get a report with a kind of summary of the assessment. This is mainly important for the first 7 years where they don't get grades. So this is a picture where you can see this now. This is a picture on the left hand of the screen where you see an example of such a report that the parents received every 6 months.
Through the LMS.
Yes, and they receive it through the LMS. And this is a very important document for also the communication between the teacher and the parents in the biannual meetings they have, because that's also regulated by the system that by legislation in Norway, that there should be a meeting between the main teacher of the child and the parents twice a year, and then they can discuss this document. The parents can read it on beforehand, and they can note down questions they have, and they can have a very, very good discussion about the children's progression and different needs. So we think this is a very good tool.
Yeah, thank you. That's another approach. So when we are talking in Germany about an educational cloud, I think the most thoughts are for now towards the interaction between teachers and students, and probably also the content, and to cover basic needs. But of course, the dimension of parents and to involve them is then, from our point of view, probably a further step. But in Germany, we have, of course, different customers that are probably also mainly use itslearning for the parent communication. But then if we talk about statewide solutions, of course, it's a bit of a different question. Is there any other questions from the audience? According to this, we have here another question. Is the assessment computer-based, meaning are there specific items which use possibilities you only have with computers, as for example, a simulation? So like interactive elements, or how exactly do these assessments look like? And what is the process? Do the students do these, or do the teachers put in the data, or probably you can be a bit more detailed on this?
Yes. For the main part, it's the assessment. Well, let's say it's quite old-fashioned actually. The teachers write a lot into the system, and they put their grades manually in, and of course the reports are put together automatically. But most of the input is manually. We have a system like I'm sure you have in most of your schools as well, or school kommuner, a system of tests. And some of these tests are automatically managed. I don't think at the moment that we have an automatic integration between the tests and itslearning.
Not with itslearning, but
not with itslearning, but we integrate with another system for analyzing. Thank you for analyzing the test scores, and this we don't use itslearning for that. But so if you talk about the big assessment part in itslearning, it's mainly manual work. But of course, to put together the report is an automatic.
Okay.
Yes. Done.
And there's were another 2 questions from the audience, because in Germany, data protection is a very relevant topic when it comes to sensible students' data. So we were wondering if you have similar problems in Oslo, or if you also have to find a solution how you can, or what kind of data you collect in the platform, how sensible they are, how have you collaborated with the data protection responsible people in your commune?
This is a big topic, very interesting question, and I can assure you it's really hot in Norway as well. So we collaborate closely with the Norwegian the government board that actually works with data security, and we have quite strong routines and rules for what kind of information that is placed where. And every company or every product we use in the Oslo school must sign a very detailed agreement on this matter. Otherwise, we don't use them. But to be specific on the assessment part in itslearning, it's also like this, that for Norwegian legislation, that this kind of assessment is not sensitive. It doesn't have to be hidden by the thickest walls. but of course, we ensure during to use the system that the student's assessment is not common knowledge. It's not on the web or anyone can see it. It's a role-based access to these features. As a parent, I have to use two-step, what's it called in English, Jørgen?
Authentication. Two-step
authentication to log on to our system and see these assessments, among other things. So it's probably well enough protected, but to be quite precise, assessments is not looked upon as sensitive. On the other hand, for instance, a student's medical needs and personal health will not be put into itslearning at all. We have other systems to keep track of that. And if I may add, if you have a system with a lot of possibilities to write free text, you have to be careful that teachers or others don't misunderstand and use these free text to put in sensitive information. So this is a challenge we can't, which is difficult to do something about with a machine. You have to train the people to be aware of what information to put where. But it's not so far. It hasn't been a problem so far. We just have to be careful.
Okay, thank you. We are pretty much to an end for our today's scheduled webinar, and it was very interesting, at least for me. I think for the audience as well, that I can read this out of all the questions we had. So it was very informative, and I think you promised me that we can also share the slides afterwards. And what I can offer is that I also can collect further questions we still have open, and that I may forward these afterwards to you. So I hope that you can probably find a bit of time to respond to some other questions that we weren't able to answer today. So ich werde es auf Deutsch noch einmal kurz erklären. Also Sie können auch gerne im Nachgang dieses Webinars noch Fragen stellen, hierher schicken an mich. Ich kann das dann gerne auch an die beiden Kollegen hier aus Norwegen weiterleiten und Ihnen dann auch gerne die Antwort wieder zurückspielen. So, thank you very much for presenting today to us. And I'm happy that we had this insight today, and looking forward also for the further contact And yeah, do you have any
Absolutely,
words to close this from your side?
Yeah, yes. What I wanted to say is that it's really important for us in Oslo to share experiences with other parts of Europe, and especially we're very interested in what goes on in Germany. So if anyone wants to contact us, and if anyone wants to make a trip to Oslo, I will do my best to make it interesting for you, and that we can share even more experiences in the future.
Thank you for the travel invitation. That would be very interesting to see probably a school life or how you deliver training. So also this is a possibility. If you're interested in that, contact us. We can arrange this for you. Thanks a lot for the invitation also.
Goodbye.
And goodbye. Thank you for today. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.